What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs, Tuesday, June 8th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 2-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Jordan Clarkson from the Utah Jazz playing the LA Clippers. Jordan Clarkson has averaged 28.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He scored 32, 28, and 21 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 21, and 21 minutes. I'm expecting him to get some extra minutes here tonight due to the injury to Mike Conley, who is questionable for tonight's game. So he's projected at 30 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's $5,800 FanDuel salary, and he's the same price on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 220.5 points scored in this game, so I like Jordan Clarkson here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, another point guard that I like, especially on DraftKings, is Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks playing the Philadelphia 76ers. Trae Young has averaged 43.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. But he scored 54, 56, and 43 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 41, and 33 minutes. He's projected at 52 fantasy points here tonight, and even on FanDuel, that's 5.1 times value. He's $10,200 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,000 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 223 points scored in this game, so I like Trae Young here versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And then I also like Ben Simmons from the Philadelphia 76ers playing the Atlanta Hawks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Ben Simmons has scored 47, 53, and 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 39, and 24 minutes. He's projected at 44 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's $8,600 FanDuel salary, and he's $500 less on DraftKings. So I like Ben Simmons here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Seth Curry from the Philadelphia 76ers playing the Atlanta Hawks. Seth Curry, he scored 30, 31, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 30, and 28 minutes. He's projected at 28 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's $5,200 FanDuel salary, and he's $200 less on DraftKings. So I think he has the potential to be the best value play on the slate, especially if he scores 30 fantasy points or more. So I like Seth Curry here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, another shooting guard that I like is Paul George from the LA Clippers playing the Utah Jazz. Paul George has scored 49, 49, and 49 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 43, 45, and 38 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. He's been super productive and consistent. He's projected at 49 fantasy points again here tonight, and that's 5.2 times value. He's 9,400 FanDuel salary, and he's 400 less on DraftKings. So I like Paul George here versus the Utah Jazz. Okay, now if you're looking for a value play, take a look at Terrence Mann from the LA Clippers playing the Utah Jazz. Terrence Mann scored 24 fantasy points last game, played 26 minutes with a 19% usage rate. So even if he only scores 20 fantasy points here tonight, that's still on FanDuel 5.1 times value because he's 3,900 FanDuel salary, but he's 600 less on DraftKings. So I think that makes him a really nice value play over there on DraftKings. So I like Terrence Mann here versus the Utah Jazz. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Kawhi Leonard from the LA Clippers playing the Utah Jazz. Kawhi Leonard has scored 69, 59, 38, 55, and 56 fantasy points in the last 5 games. I just wanted to give you the last 5 because he's pretty much scored 55 fantasy points or more every single playoff game with the exception of that 38. And he's played 42, 41, and 41 minutes in the last 3 games, playing monster minutes. He's projected at 56 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 11,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 1,100 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. So I like Kawhi Leonard here versus the Utah Jazz. Another small forward that I like is Bojan Bogdanovic from the Utah Jazz playing the LA Clippers. Now this is probably a FanDuel play for me only. Bojan Bogdanovic, he's averaged 24.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 36, 17, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 31, 33, and 37 minutes. He's projected at 27.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 5,400 FanDuel salary, but he's 600 more on DraftKings. So probably not interested in this DraftKings play, but I like that FanDuel price. So I like Bojan Bogdanovic on FanDuel here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Marcus Morris Sr. from the LA Clippers playing the Utah Jazz. Marcus Morris, he averaged 21.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate, but he scored 32, 12, and 38 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 41, and 42 minutes. So he's projected at 28 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's 5,300 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 less on DraftKings. So I like Marcus Morris here versus the Utah Jazz. Okay, another power forward that I like is Royce O'Neal from the Utah Jazz playing the LA Clippers. Royce O'Neal, he averaged 21.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 10% usage rate, but he scored 42, 30, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 34, in 31 minutes. He's projected at 28 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 5,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 400 less on DraftKings. So I like Royce O'Neal here versus the LA Clippers. Now I also like Tobias Harris, and I also like John Collins on DraftKings. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Clint Capella from the Atlanta Hawks playing the Philadelphia 76ers. Clint Capella has averaged 40 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He scored 28, 41, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 36, and 28 minutes. He's projected at 40 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's only 7,600 FanDuel salary, and he's 200 more on DraftKings. So I like Clint Capella here versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And another center that I like, a stud pick for you, I like Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers playing the Atlanta Hawks. Joel Embiid has averaged 49.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 36% usage rate. He scored 64 fantasy points last game, played 38 minutes. He's projected at 54 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 10,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 less on DraftKings. So I like Joel Embiid here versus the Atlanta Hawks. And just real quick, I also like Rudy Gobert on DraftKings. He's projected at 43 fantasy points here tonight, although he did score 52 fantasy points last game in 33 minutes. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.9 times value because he's 8,800 FanDuel salary, but he's 900 less on DraftKings. So I would rather play Clint Capella on FanDuel, but I think Rudy Gobert makes for an interesting play on DraftKings. So I like Rudy Gobert on DraftKings here versus the LA Clippers. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.